Hi, Uplift family. My name is Katrina Hertz, and I'm the social emotional learning instructional coach. And I first just want to start off by saying thank you for going on this journey of uncharted territory for online learning or distant learning with us as a network and also with us as the social emotional learning team. We are just excited to take some time today to talk to you about social emotional learning and how it can be integrated into your distant learning agenda. Social emotional learning? Hi, Snelly. Where'd you come from? Well, your room. So, you all, this is one of my very slow but patient friends, Snelly. He's visited quite a few classrooms um, over the network or throughout the network, and I guess he's just really excited to be here with us today. Is that right, Snelly? Yes. All right, y'all. So you've met Snelly. So again, this presentation is just going to walk you through some resources and an agenda for what could it look like to integrate social emotional learning. So again, we are here to be of service. Service? Guess I left off our other friend Pup. Here's Pup. So Pup speak. Hello, everybody. Pup is not shy, but Pup was taking a nap. And so Pup heard the word service and the social emotional learning team, including myself, Katrina Hertz. We are here to be of service to you. So if you have any questions about anything that is in this presentation, feel free to reach out to me, my name, my email, and my personal cell phone number on the first slide. Thank you, and we look forward to this adventure with you. So this agenda is just an example of how your distant learning can look when integrated with social emotional learning strategies and skills. So start with a greeting, very similar to how you would do in the classroom. An emotion check-in slash mindfulness activity. So doing those are two separate things. And so the mindfulness activity is just a good opportunity to follow up once scholars have shared how they are feeling, and then your content that you have already prepared and created for this distant learning platform, movement, and optimistic closure. Hi, y'all. Pup and I are back, and we just really wanted to talk to you about the first part of the agenda, the social emotional learning agenda being integrated with your distant learning, and that really is the greeting part. So, the greeting is an opportunity for you to continue to build community with your scholars, even though it'll be more so one on one. It's just a chance for you to reassure them with your voice, with your personality, with you also talking about experiences that you potentially are going through right now that you deem essential for kids to know, or just to have insight into even your day to day work and your day to day experiences as we go through this new um, learning platform and also just like these new elements of life. So on the next slide, I'll just kind of go through some examples and what that could look like to do a greeting. But I would just really think about your morning meeting or your morning circles, and we're going to really grab some pieces from that to implement throughout this entire agenda. Thank you all. Here are a couple of examples, and I'm going to go through the examples of the next slide. But just think about, like, even the funniest thing of having an image of a bear just like waving. My scholars, when I was a teacher, would have definitely known that this is my personality, and they know that there's potentially a story behind this, and so that would be a part of my greeting. So let's go to the next page. So here are some examples of the actual links from the first slide. And so the first slide just talked about question of the day. So here's a bank of questions of the day that you could actually do, and I'll model what that looks like on the next slide. But just grab a question of the day, or maybe you had a morning meeting book that you used already that has some amazing resources in it. Pick out some that are relevant right now, or things that you've always wanted to share with your scholars, but maybe you hadn't had the chance. So just take some time to do that now. I also have linked some just like virtual, like mini videos that you can use, more so like the motion picture ones, the GIFs. And so take a time just to go through those. I'll upload some more as the weeks go by, but there are about 6 or 7 there now that you could use as you want to. So I'll just go through, if I was still in the classroom, how would this look? So, say I'm getting online, well, I'm recording my actual distant learning lesson, and then I have a scholar that is about to watch my video. This would definitely be the first thing that they see. So, here we go. Hi, Morehouse. I know that you are taking the time to sit down and do some learning today, but before we get into learning, I just wanted to, do one of my silly greetings. Oh, here's a cute little bear. So, as you all know, I want you just to take the time to slow down and speak to those around you in your home, maybe those who are passing, in their cars on the street going to work, are doctors and nurses, and people who work at grocery stores. So, if you see those people as you're outside playing or as they're driving by, or just to be, nice and polite, give them a nice little wave. And so, we usually do our circles, and at this time, I'm recording this around 9:30 a.m. and this would not be morning meeting time. We actually will be going into math, into Eureka Math, but this is a sentence stem that I just want to share with you. So I've been thinking a lot about my friends, and I think that the best thing about a friend is that they're always there for you. And so I'm thinking about some of my friends during this time who have called and checked on me or video chatted with me, and I'm just really thankful for my friends right now. And I think the best thing about them is that they check on you. So that would be how I would do my greeting. And so the is an emotion check in. And so we know that we often go throughout the day not taking the time to just stop and just realize, what are we carrying? How are we feeling? How have situations through the day impacted us? And when we are able to acknowledge that, then we can actually have actions to move forward. And so that's extremely important during this time, because scholars potentially are sitting down to dive into distant learning, and they actually haven't checked in with themselves. They know that they feel like some type of emotion, but they're not really sure what it is and what to do about it. So I believe that there's power in one, and you are one teacher that they're going to engage with on this day at this moment. And so you have the opportunity to not only help them to recognize how they are feeling, but also give them tools and to model what that looks like. This is just a process that I would go through. And I'm not going to really read through this, but I'm going to note that you definitely are just trying to first identify what is the visual aid that I'm going to use in order to best support my scholars being able to check in with their emotions. And so this is pre-K to second. And so I want you to take the time on the next slide when you look at resources to actually think about what resources is going to work best for my scholars given their age group. And so the first one is literally picking a visual of emotions to display to your scholars. So here are some examples of emotion check-in charts that you can use. Also, if you already have one in your classroom that you really, really like and that you have access to it because you already took a picture or you know how to access it online, please use those and feel free to share with your grade level and also your campus around some that might be normed at your campus. But here are 3 examples, and then the last bullet, the fourth one, are just techniques for all grade levels, all ages that you can share with your scholars, maybe even some that you yourself would use if you are trying to manage a really big emotion. So here I'm just going to go through the examples that I posted on the previous slide. So it's in order of the way that they are linked on the previous slide. So this is a resource that actually was shared with me from Miss Miller at Elevate Primary. So shout out to Miss Miller. And for this one, it just has a lot of faces, and so if you feel like scholars might get overwhelmed, then maybe this is not one that you use, or maybe you can kind of pull out some that you feel might be necessary to share, so you can make your own poster. With this one, here's another one that is our good old friends, the emojis. and it has less faces and it's also familiar faces. So maybe you would like to use this one as the visual aid that scholars would actually be using um, to share what emotion or what feeling they're walking into the distant learning space with. And here's a third one. I really like this one. I've never seen it before. That's one reason why I like it. Because I always like to find new resources, but it also kind of just describes what this means. And so it gives the scholars an opportunity not just to see what this might look like, but also to have some information around what does it mean to be grumpy? Like, what does this feeling actually mean? All right. So, the next part will be mindfulness, and this can be done in conjunction to the emotion check in, or you can just go straight here if you feel like you don't have the opportunity to do both. But I definitely would do an emotion check in and a mindfulness activity. And if I want to limit that to 5 minutes, then I would go through and schedule how does that need to look for this to happen in 5 minutes. So, really, mindfulness is about being present, being able to be here right now. And it helps with like internal things and also external. So the way we're feeling inside, and also like being able to release tension and stress that has built up in our body. So the good thing is that this is the last thing that you would do before you go into content. So this can really help scholars to focus their attention on the learning that you're about to present. Snelly, are you okay?
Yes.
Okay. So here are some examples of mindfulness activities that you can do, and all of these are linked. So all the slides throughout the presentation, the resources are linked. So you can go through here and look at all of the resources. But on the next slide, I'm going to highlight um, almost all of these. So the first one is 6 mindfulness activities that you can do. And so you can really just record yourself or use your voiceover to walk scholars through this activity. So for instance, one says, sit very still and notice one thing that you can see, one thing that you can hear, one thing that you can feel, one thing that you can taste, and one thing that you can smell. And so you can use these just to kind of walk scholars through some reflection, or really just like to get them to be present, especially after potentially naming a big emotion that they haven't really had the time to process and deal with. The second one is the library of resources. There are about 8 to 12 videos on the website, but some of them are specifically for 3 to 5, and then some of them are across grade levels, so you can use those as well. And then the last one is Uplift. We have our own mindfulness activity. It's 2 minutes. And so definitely feel free to use that one. So yeah, and then so now we've come to the place where you are implementing or now delivering your enrichment content for your distant learning platform. So this would, before this, you would have done the greeting, emotion check-in, mindfulness activity, and then you would just really say to scholars, like, we've had the time to check in, for me to greet you, for you to know how I'm doing, and hopefully you'll find a way to share with me how you're doing. And also we had the chance to do a mindfulness activity. So let's jump into today's content. And then you would do that part. So we know that moving is important for a lot of reasons. Maybe we think to be able to maintain a healthy life, but also for well-being. That there is some alignment between your body moving and also that impacting your mind. Some of our scholars are potentially going outside every day. I know it's some nice weather for the next couple of days. Potentially, some of our scholars are moving inside, but some of our scholars might not and might need some ideas or some encouragement from one of their favorite people in order to get some movement in. So, this is just an opportunity for you to challenge them because you most likely won't have a lot of time to do the movement challenge on the distant learning platform with your scholars. But if you find the opportunity to do so, definitely do it and let me know so I can learn from you. So if you find some on, really think my scholars can do this on their own, feel free to share these with scholars, and say like, hey, I want to provide you with a challenge this week to move your body, or just do whatever you've been doing, playing basketball, playing soccer, doing some yoga, stretching, dance. So here's some here, and then I will explain a few of these on the next slide. The first one, some of the actions might feel more towards like third grade and lower grades, but fourth grade and fifth grade teachers, if you feel like that they are aligned to the grade level or the age range of your scholars, please feel free to use them. If you find ways to change them, do so as well. So, some examples of movement activities. The first one is the one that I think is more aligned to third grade and below, but it's basically having them to spell out their name and then do the exercises that go with that. I just think some of the movements might be more so third grade to lower aligned, but definitely feel free to use it. I would definitely do it, and I'm definitely not in K to 5. Here is it's like a challenge to see how many of a certain exercise you can do in 100 seconds. Here is a yoga video that our scholars can have access to. It's from YouTube. And lastly, this is just an example of the Go Noodle sing and dance alongs that scholars need access to through their parents signing up. And so the directions for what that looks like here. And in the notes section is the link to that, and feel free to download it or just copy and paste this entire chart into any of the communication channels that you have with parents. And so now it's just all about closing out the time that you had with scholars. So you did your lesson, and then you talked about a movement challenge that you wanted scholars to be up and moving. And now we're just closing out this social and emotional learning and academic distant learning with scholars. And we really want them to have an intentional way of reflecting on their experience. It's not necessarily like the cheery ending, but it's really getting them to sit with the things that they have absorbed throughout the time with you. So we've talked about what optimistic closures are, and here are just some examples of what that could look like. And so there are a range of questions. You can also on Pinterest, they have a lot of activities, but just starting off right now is really just presenting a sentence stem to scholars that they can go through and process on their own. And then you also like ending with the optimistic closure response from you. In the notes, I have gone through, like, I typed out what are the steps to delivering or actually executing the optimistic closure. And so there's a step by step process that you can go through, but it literally is just putting up some reflection stems or questions about maybe the day or the evening that they had before, on the day before they did this learning. So it's just an opportunity for you to further connect, and for scholars to be more self-aware of their learning, their emotions, and if you have any that you add, or that you found activities that are amazing to do or that you can do virtually, feel free to send those to me and I can share them out to the network. So, this last part, I just wanted to close with my own optimistic closure. And before I sign off, and it is that I am thankful for Uplift placing social emotional learning as a part of online learning, distance learning, that we know that our scholars are experiencing a lot, just like we are as the adults who are also going through very similar shifts. And so I'm just grateful to be able to support you all as you jump on this plane that we're literally building it as we're flying it, because we're taking in feedback, getting insight from family, from you all, from parents, from scholars, from leaders, to figure out how to best support our students at this time. And I'm also grateful for the fact that I'm looking at my phone and it's 86 degrees. So I'm grateful for the weather that we have in Dallas at this present moment, because I will be going walking. Again, I appreciate all of you all. And if you need me or Pup or Snail Snelly, let us know my email address, and I guess you can contact them the same way. It's on the first slide, and my phone number is there as well. I appreciate you, and give me any feedback. I am open to it because feedback is a gift. Thank you.